What's up, Autobiography family? Today, man, we got a Nissan Altima. Now, I had a subscriber by the name of TC ask for this video, man. So I'm giving it to him. I'm delivering on my promise. So we got a bumper job here. Simple, easy bumper jobs, man. Just a few scrapes. There's actually a little indent there, but I didn't fix it. They just wanted to fix the little paint chips there. So I got my little pistol grip sander out, 3-inch sander. Got 180 grit on it. Now, it wasn't too bad. If there was some, bad deep scratches, I'll use 80 grit. I'll start with 80 grit, but 180 did this just fine. Now, after the 180 grit now, you got to do 320, because what happens is that 180 roughs that plastic up too much, and if you go prime over that, it's going to leave it all rough. Now, a lot of times you can block it out in the primer, but why? You can just go over with some 320 and then prime it. Make sure you feather all those edges out. If you don't feather the edges out, you're going to see it. It ain't going to block out in the primer. Not unless you put the primer way too thick. But on this job, we're going to use aerosol primer, so therefore, you can't put it on too thick. Now, we got 400 grit on the softback DA, and this is just to take out some of those 320 grit scratches that was left behind, and give something for that primer to stick to, because you're going to have to prime past the damaged area. Now, all this you can do in your driveway at home. It's no problem. You can fix your own car, fix your neighbor's car, fix the cars at the dealership. Man, this is a job I do maybe 5 or 6 on the weekend at a car dealership. Make some great money, because of course they don't know how easy it is, but for me it's easy because I've been doing it for a while, man. And you don't have to use air sanders. You can do this by hand. You can use the same grits I was talking about earlier, the 180 to 320, and do it all by hand. It's not really that hard work. Now, if I was doing it by hand, I would even try wet sanding it with like 400 grit, 600 grit, all that good stuff. But it's really not that difficult. I'm using a red Scotch-Brite to hit those edges. Now, you got to get that edge in there between the bumper and the quarter panel real good, because if you don't, that paint ain't gonna stick. But yeah, so to tape it up, no issue, man. Just follow that line right there. Now, don't make sure the tape ain't covering part of the bumper, because I've seen a lot of guys make that mistake where they're taping that edge, and instead of going in the small gap there, they got the tape on top of the bumper, and then it makes a mess when you priming it. It's gonna make a hard line. So what I do is take the yellow tape, get close to the edge with the yellow tape, then take the finer green tape and get that right in the gap. So, because you don't want no scratches on this quarter panel. We're not trying to work on the quarter panel, even though this quarter panel's been painted before, man. And it got a little mark on it and that buffed out, but this quarter panel's definitely been painted before. It has some runs in it. I don't know. It looked like something somebody might have did outside, but it wasn't too bad. Notice how I'm rolling that tape up, and that's just to not get a hard line from the primer, because if you get that hard line, then you got to block it out, or you're gonna see it in your paint job, and then you're probably gonna burn through down the plastic again where you're blocking that line out. It just makes a mess, and you might have to reprime it. You never know. But so therefore, just don't get a hard line. Tape it like I'm showing you, or you can use foam tape or something like that, but it's easier and cheaper just to roll the edge of the tape, and don't paint all the way up to the tape. Just kind of let the overspray hit the tape, and it won't leave a line, I promise. Paper all the way around it. You don't want the primer hitting the quarter panel. It's self-explanatory. I'm pretty sure you guys have figured that out. We're not painting the rims, we're not painting the quarter panel, so you don't want primer on it. Just get primer over the area you're working on, man. But you don't want to prime too much, because then, whatever you prime, the paint got to go past that, right? And this is not a pearl white. It looks like a pearl white, but it's just a solid white. I forgot the paint code on it, but just a solid white, just a little yellow or solid white. And the bumper already didn't match the quarter, so I wasn't too worried about the color match, so because I am going to paint right up to the edge of the bumper, so hopefully it matches the quarter pretty good, which it actually did. I'll show you at the end of the video, and all the products I use I'm going to leave in the description in case you need to find them at the store or something. Like the high build primer, aerosol primer that I use is You can find that in car part stores. The clear coat blender that I use at the end of the video, you can find in car part stores. You know, the paint, it might not be the same brand of paint, but we got like at least 2 in my area I live in. You can go and just tell them the paint code and they'll mix up the paint for you, you know, the standard variant, and that's usually good enough. But with this primer now, this is Sims Aerosol High Build Primer. With this primer, you got to go light on that first coat. If you go heavy on that first coat, it's going to leave all these little pinholes in the primer. So go light on the first coat, give it 5-10 minutes to flash, depending on how hot it is. It was about 90 degrees outside, so I gave it 5 minutes, then went over it with a little heavier second coat. That's all I needed for this because I sanded it with 320. Now, while the primer's drying, I'm going to mix up the paint, get the color right, you know. That's a little camera you use just to read the color. Look, it's not a miracle. It doesn't work every time, I'm telling you. I've seen that camera be way off. I could have picked something better blindfolded, I promise you. But it does work sometimes, and I used it on this job and it came out alright. It wasn't 100% match, but you know, it was pretty close. Now, that primer, give it 30 minutes to dry. Out in the sun, I actually moved it out in the sun and let it dry for 30 minutes. I'm blocking it out with 400. Now, you want to get most of your blocking done with 400. After the 400, I go 600. 600 grit, man, paint will cover it, clear coat will cover it, but definitely where I'm painting at is I'm just blocking that with the 600, all the primer. And shout out to all the people that told me not to quit posting these videos, man. I'm just telling you, like, I was kind of depressed that all my views went down, but and I don't really get paid doing this, man. I got a lot going on. Like I said, I work at the body shop, right? And I got a pool cleaning business, and I got 5 kids, and you know, when something ain't working, you like, I don't really get paid off of it. So like, but you know, I don't know. I'm gonna keep working on it. It was about 3 or 4 people told me don't quit, man. They learned a lot from the videos, so I'm gonna keep working on it. But 800 grit, I'm going over those 600 grit scratches. I'll go over the primer a little bit, but you definitely want the 800 grit everywhere you know clear coat is gonna land. Now, 800 grit, base coat will stick to it, clear coat will stick to it and not show any scratches, you know, dying back or nothing later. But this is white, so you ain't really gotta worry about that too much. White actually hides a lot. But yeah, see, I'm gonna utilize that body line there because I'm not trying to paint this whole bumper. They ain't pay me to paint this whole bumper, you know. So I'm gonna utilize that body line, and then you see we got the plastic grill piece. I guess you call it a grill. The black plastic there. I'm gonna utilize that. That's gonna be a cutoff point. The body line's gonna be a cutoff point. Now, I got the 1500 grit right where I know the clear coat is gonna stop. It's just gonna be maybe a light coat of clear in that area, and you know, the clear coat's gonna stop. So right up to that body line, make sure you don't hit the tail lights with the sandpaper. Yes, you can buff that 1500 grit out, but if you hit that tail light with 400 grit, it's gonna be harder to buff out. Now this is 3000 grit by hand. Now, what I'm doing with the 3000 grit is hitting where I know the clear coat's gonna stop and the clear coat blender is gonna land. But we're not done with that, man. There's a little more to it, but make sure you rub it. Now, what this is doing is giving it a little bit of scratch, and it's cleaning it off. Because if you go and spray that clear coat blender over some dirt and grime that's kind of embedded in the paint, you're going to see it. And now it's stuck there because you got something like over top of it, you know. Especially on white, you'll see all those little black specks and all that good stuff. So, where I rubbed it with the 3000 grit, take compound, rubbing compound, not extra heavy, it's, you know, regular compound, and you want to rub that. See, what that's going to do is kind of shine it up a little bit more. It's still going to leave some scratch, but it's going to shine it up a little bit more so it's not too much of a scratch. Because that clear coat blender, when it lands there, it's real thin. Like, it don't need that much scratch to stick, but you still want it to be shiny in that area like it's been clear coated. So that's what the compound is doing, is shining it back up and, you know, leaving an area, you know, for it to stick to. And make sure you hit everywhere, you know, even past where you know you're gonna spray the blender, go past that with the compound, rubbing it with the compound. Now we in the booth. Now Now this is white, so it ain't gonna take much. 2 coats and I'm done, man. I got that Effortless SRI Pro Light. You know, I can't remember the air cap, high efficiency air cap. You know, get that primer covered. It didn't really cover on the first coat too well, but the second coat did it. And the camera actually got the color pretty close. I could tell already when I was spraying it that it was close. Not perfect, but close. It was gonna blend out fine. You ain't gotta use no base coat blender on this job if you don't want to, because it's white. Now if it was silver, yeah, I'm gonna use that base coat blender. But with white, you could blend out white, black, all that. No base coat blender, it's not hard to do. Second coat of base coat, I gave it about 10 minutes flash time. You know, just let it sit in the booth for about 10 minutes, go smoke a cigarette or something, you know, go have a Red Bull or something, and come back, because you don't want to pile on the coats too quick, you know what I mean? Come back, make sure you're hitting everything, make sure all the black plastic is covered, all the burn throughs you got, make sure all the primer is covered. The biggest thing is the primer, right? But with white, 2 coats, you're pretty much good to go. That's all I put on this was 2 coats. And that minigun, you know, it's got a 1.0 tip, so you know, it ain't gonna overload the paint too much. But you don't want the paint all the way up to the foam tape. Now I got the foam tape on the back of the bumper, right on that body line. You do not want the paint all the way up to that foam tape with the base coat. Now the clear coat, I'm going all the way up to the foam tape, because I actually got double foam tape. I'm gonna show y'all guys why I do double foam tape in a minute. You don't have to do it. I've done it without it, but I'm gonna show you why I do it in just a minute. But clear coat, it just goes on just like any other clear job, nothing special. Put that coat, you know, medium wet. You know, you don't want it too heavy because it'll start running, but go right up to that foam tape. If you notice how I got that paper at the end of that blend, it's paper there to cover the blend, but it's up. It ain't taped down hard, because you don't, if you tape it down hard, it's gonna leave a line. With the clear coat or any overspray from the base coat, it'll leave a line. So I got it kind of curved over the bumper there. Now, I pulled the first foam tape. Notice, when I cleared that first coat of clear, with the base coat and the first coat of clear, I left that first line of foam tape. Now, after that first coat of clear, pull the first line of foam tape. Now the second line of foam tape is actually on that body line for the bumper. Now, second coat of clear, man, just go, you know, go a little bit slower, a little bit nicer. Now this is white, so if it gets some dry spots or something, you're probably not gonna necessarily see it, you know what I mean? But you still want to try to get as nice as possible. You know, take your time, watch what you're doing. Sometimes it's hard to see because white's reflecting all the light, so it's kind of hard to see how it's going on, but you know, just have to look at it at different angles, make sure it's right. Make sure you're hitting all your edges. Now on that black plastic down there, you don't really want to get no base coat on it because it's hard to get off. But see, I'm going all the way to the foam tape, but it should not leave a line if you ain't going too heavy, right? And you see the paper there, how that paper's popped up, so there's overspray blowing under there, but not too far under there, you know what I mean? Now after the job is done, you let it dry, you know, you bake it, whatever you're gonna do, and you rub all the blends with some polish, shine it right back up, but not too hard, because it'll start peeling back some of that clear coat. So you just rub it, give it a little bit of rub, and if you did the prep work right, you should have no issues with doing these clear coat blends. Now, you gotta pull that paper, pull that foam tape, and that will expose the blend. Now I'm gonna be honest, with white like this, I probably could have pulled that paper off that body line and you'll never even seen the blend at all, you know, but you know, I spray blender on it just to ensure that there's no kind of line or nothing. Now that blender is just basically mostly reducer. Now I think this might got some 1K clear in it, like a little bit of clear in it, but it's mostly reducer. You know, you can use regular reducer, put it in a spray gun, a minigun or something, and use regular reducer too, especially on white, no issue. Now I like this stuff because on blacks and, you know, the darker colors, it seems to work a little bit better than just straight reducer. Now, you want to keep looking at it at different angles, make sure you're wetting it up enough with that blender. Now, if you go too heavy with this stuff, it will make the clear coat start running. Now you got a problem, because now you got wet setting the runs, and it's gonna start peeling all the clear coat back. Now, here's a quick shot of it outside. Not too bad. It looked a little yellower, which it did before I even started working on it. And that's all I got for you with this one. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.